The stakeholder we represent is the Catholic Church. As the Church, we will be looking at climate change from four main perspectives due to the sheer size of the Catholic religion. This will include the Catholic faith, which has over 1.2 billion followers spanning the entire globe, Catholic politicians who associate themselves with numerous governments who have some form of impact on the environment, the home of Catholicism, which is the Vatican City and also the smallest country in the world, and finally Pope Francis, who is a spokesperson of the Holy See and is said to be the voice of God. As Catholics, we believe that humans are part of God's creation, that we are made in the image of and likeness of God, and as the Holy See, we are responsible for the care of all creation. Additionally, our actions have a destructive impact environmentally and socially. This is because our greed, violence, and our selfishness have consequences. Evidently, in the last 150 years of rapid resource extraction and industrialization, we have significantly altered Earth's atmosphere, as heightened temperatures and CO2 levels have acidified the oceans, disseminating deep coral reefs that endanger numerous key marine species and threaten food security for hundreds of millions of people, while demonstrating how climate change creates a causal increase in global temperatures that could destabilize the climate system and have irreversible implications. As it stands, we of the Holy See have accepted the reality of climate change. We believe that the climate change is caused by human action and recognize it as a moral issue which we need to address. Moreover, Pope Francis has called to care for creation not only as responsible citizens, but as followers of Christ. Coincidentally, the last three popes have each called for the aid of Catholics to protect our environment from climate change, as it is God's creation, and we are confident that we, as the Catholic Church, are the forerunners of fighting the struggle against climate change. Additionally, there is a plethora of scientific evidence that is aligned with a strong consensus that climate change is caused by human action and will likely have catastrophic consequences in the near future. Evidence illustrates that global sea level has risen by 8 inches in the last century, and more importantly, it has nearly doubled that in the last 2 decades. As for the planet's average surface temperature, it has risen approximately 1.1 degrees Celsius since the late 19th century, as increased carbon dioxide and other human-made emissions in the atmosphere has warmed the planet in the last 35 years, with 16 out of the 17 worst years occurring since 2001. The evidence shows that climate change has detrimental effects on God's creation. As Pope Francis said in Laudato Si, strategies for a solution demand an integrated approach to combining poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature. There are two leading approaches on climate change: mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation aims to combat climate change through reducing our environmental impact by following an ethical aptitude based around the idea of conservation. Ultimately, mitigation can reduce climate change by reducing GHG emissions, as it can be used to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. However, these strategies around mitigation come in the form of two groups. The first idea is called ecological footprint. It is a measure that requires that human consumption and environmental impact can be reduced. So if each person lived within their boundaries of his or her maximum rate of resource consumption, which can be sustained indefinitely, the planet would achieve a sustainable future free from further climate change and other related detriment. The other group supports mitigation through the principle that those who pollute have a negative duty to provide some compensation to reduce harms related to their pollution. Alternatively, adaptation is the approach that people can sustainably live in a climate-changed world through a greater investment in technological advancements that permit us to adapt. Adaptation is innovative in a variety of ways. It can be used to construct new flood devices or floating cities. By using scientific research and adaptive living, it is plausible that humans can sustain and tolerate the effects of climate change. Vatican City is governed much like any monarchy, but with the Pope as the figurehead, acting on behalf of the Holy See, with a population of only approximately 840 people. Though it is important to note that it was almost strictly all male senior members of the Church. All decisions made within the city are administered by the Pope with an inner circle of advisors which help regulate his decisions. Although we have a dynamic political structure, there is very little that needs to be governed within the city due to its size and minimal population, as well as the fact that we have no imports, exports, or other form of GDP. However, on an international scale, there are far more roles within governments. In 2015, around 30% of senators in the US were Catholic, which meant that there was an immense Catholic presence during the Obama presidency, most of them being Republican. Politically, Vatican City is a small country that has no direct control over all Catholics, and therefore we are significantly constrained and limited in our response to climate change. So, rather than handling climate change directly through reducing specific emissions or national schemes to reduce pollution, such as countries like China and India, we can only urge and encourage our Catholic followers to get involved locally with climate change. The head of the Catholic Church, Pope Francis, has become increasingly involved with spreading awareness on climate change, whilst calling countries to action so that we can challenge climate change before it is too late. In addition, the Pope has spoken many a time at different summits and conventions, particularly the United Nations, which he has participated in consistently since he became the Pope. However, there is one major problem with the Pope's call to action, which, historically, is that Catholicism and other religions have a very little or no belief in climate change or science in general, as some have argued that Earth was created by God and humans could not intervene with his plan nor alter his creation. Though nowadays many support the adherents to fight climate change, there is a niche minority who deny that humans have any negative impact on the environment whatsoever. Socially, we have implemented informative websites that initiate awareness and spread knowledge about climate change. These include websites such as the Catholic Climate Covenant and Catholic Earth Care, which both promote the protection of Earth. We have also taken a step towards including Catholic schools, as there is a group in Australia called Earth Care Initiatives, who exercise community endeavours in regards to planting trees and reducing emissions. Their endeavours also include education, as they hope to teach the younger generations about how important the environment is and how important it is to conserve it. To conclude, contrary to popular belief, the Catholic Church is extremely vocal about stopping climate change and protecting the Earth. Though the stereotype of Catholicism is one of skepticism of science and ignorance in regards to anything perceived as left-wing, the Church is trying to steer the view of the people away from the past and into the future, and towards protecting this planet.